Welcome to the Misfit One Lifestyles with Elizabeth Colin. She will awaken and connect with your Misfit One. Are you tired of the ups and downs in your life? Are you ready to live a healthy lifestyle once and for all? We are talking about all aspects of your life. Being fit is not just physical, it's also your mind and soul. Learn how to take steps in your life to move towards your goals. Elizabeth's goal is for everyone listening to the sound of her voice to get fit. Let's get focused, let's get intentional, and let's transform. Now here's your host, Elizabeth Colin.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Misfit One Lifestyles with your girl, Elizabeth Colin, and I have a special guest today. You know, Phil Jackson once said, the strength of the team is in each individual member, and the strength of each member is in the team. My guest today is all about having the team that shows diversity and equality. Shisha Balani, I said it all wrong, but welcome. Can you please say your beautiful name for us?
It's Sishe Balani.
Thank you. I am so honored to have you today because you are definitely important in so many ways. I mean, you are a strategist, a writer, a speaker, a phenomenal, strong woman that we all look up to. I know I do. And I'm sure after everybody hears this, we'll be doing the same. Can you talk to us a little bit about your podcast, The Workplace Revolution?
Of course. So I started my podcast last year. I think the first episode was published on the 16th of March 2020. And it really came off the back of thinking about the work that I do, which is really just driving, sparking, curating conversations around diversity, particularly in the workplace. But beyond that, giving a platform to Black professional women in various spaces who are able to share their stories of success, their challenges, but also helping other women who are listening to be able to better navigate the journey that is either their career or even just life in general. And so because I have a communications and marketing and brand background, I'm always trying to think about, having a multi-platform approach to the work that I do, because I understand that people consume content very differently, and people have, different preferences. Some people prefer to read. And so I have a blog that people can go to. Some people prefer social media, and so you can go to Instagram and get content, or Twitter and get my content. But some people prefer to listen to stuff. So the podcast was then the natural progression for me. Very scary to think about that because I never imagined myself ever having a podcast. And I had no idea what to expect when I launched it, but it really has been the most incredible year because I've had an opportunity to have conversations with phenomenal women who I probably never would have crossed paths with before, whose stories I never would have heard before. And each of these conversations has been so impactful on my audience, in helping them to think about life and work differently, to think about themselves differently, and to begin to really start questioning the way that they've always done things and start approaching life from the perspective of what is it that I need to do or to change to enable me to be able to serve my highest self wherever I am.
Wow. That is so deep, so profound, because your podcast is one of the highest listenerships in South Africa.
It actually,
USA, UK, Germany, and France. I'm like, wait, let me go ahead. Not only where you are, but it's in the United States, UK, Germany, and France. And what I love about it, I listen to it and you're dead on. It is really impactful in our lives because we get to see things that we think that we're only going through here. And I'm speaking when I say here, the United States, um, and realize that, wait, our sisters are going through very similar things in South Africa. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely. The more I have these conversations, and the more my audience expands, the more I start to see the parallels that exist, regardless of geography. And, I've been able to, become friends with some people, for instance, in the United States who are also thought leaders within the space. People like Minda Harts, who's the author of The Memo, how women of color can secure a seat at the table. And you see that our experiences are the same. You could literally just cut and paste,
Yes.
Regardless of where you are. And I think this is one of the things that really just throws me about systemic racism and oppression, in that it's as though everybody has this playbook of how to do it, how to be oppressive, how to victimize Black professionals, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in the economy, whether it's in healthcare. And the experiences are the same. The language is the same. The way that the systems open up and close, depending on who's trying to get in, is exactly the same. And it is mind-blowing when you actually start looking at the patterns, and how they manifest themselves in exactly the same way across continents.
Yes, that is so, it's so scary. I often thought the same thing. Like, how do they all know? Like, how is this being um, translated from generation to generation without us seeing the playbook? You know what I mean? Like, how are we missing it? Is it a secret email? Was it a secret smokestack? What is it that they see that we don't get? And we watched this program. You may be familiar with it. Is Many Rivers to Cross on PBS. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't.
It is absolutely amazing. It goes through the African American journey from slavery all the way up to President Obama. And the crazy thing is they broke it down into years, like 1900s to 1920 to, you know what I mean? And those type of things. And they showed how they continually to pass it down to the next generation. And one way was, of course, cartoons, the satire of the newspaper, and now in modern day is the media.
Absolutely.
And when you say that it's the same from like cut and paste, right? Cut and paste your experience, my experience, and all that. How is it that we can fight that? How can we join together and say, hey, no more?
I think, there's definitely no simple solution to it. But if we understand how power dynamic has, gone from strength to strength over centuries and over through generations, is that we need to understand that at the root of it lies the power that comes with having resources, right? So having money means that there's a lot of things that you can buy, a lot of things that you can influence. And, the way in which racism has been able to live and thrive, as you have mentioned, is in the fact that they have been able to own and direct narratives in a particular way. And so if we think about it from the context of the media, you have platforms that are reliant on funding in order for them to survive. And so once you bring in external funders to be able to help your business survive as a media platform, there's something that you need to give back in return. And that is when you then begin to see that compromise coming into play. And if you are in a platform that is unethical, if you're a platform that is happy to drive harmful narratives that literally harm an entire group of people, that is how that harm is perpetuated over and over and over again. And so if we're thinking about it as Black people, and what do we need to do to be able to turn things around? Firstly, we need to be able to come together as Black people and agree on this one agenda. The second thing is that we need to be able to strategize around what are the quick wins and what are the long-term plays that we need to be chasing. So, we need to understand how we can best use our resources. Some people have the capacity to fund movements at a large scale financially. And so that is what they can do and do it consistently. There are some people who might say, well, I don't have the money, but I'm an attorney and I'm able to provide legal advice. I can go and look at laws and look at how we can draft up papers to be able to try and petition Congress or whatever lawmakers to be able to, put in place laws that speak to exactly what the situation is that we're facing and what we need in order for us to address the inequalities that exist systematically. There might be people who say, well, I'm not a lawyer, but I am able to organize people. And so that's what you do. So it's about being able to all make a conscious decision about what it is that we are, what skills we have that we can leverage, how best we can use that, and be committed to it. For so many people, and I've seen this happen so many times. I mean, even in the context of when my book We Are the Ones We Need came out, it was the first book of its kind in South Africa, where I wrote about my experiences in corporate South Africa, which reflected the experiences of so many other young Black professionals in the workplace. Racism, discrimination, pay inequality, sexism, so many different, issues that exist. And people read the book, and in that moment, you're excited, you riled up, you feel seen and you feel validated. And yes, we have to do something. We have to fight. In this moment, you're heated. 2 weeks later, I've now got to follow up with you and say, oh, you said you were going to do ABC. How far are you with that? Oh, yeah, work and life and things have just been so hectic. And then nothing ever happens after that. And we see that in all of the different spaces that exist within the sphere of activism. No matter what the cause is, not many people are committed enough to the journey, because it is a long journey. Change will not come easily. It'll not be handed to us. We are going to have to fight consistently for many, many years before we start to see real meaningful change happening. And people just aren't prepared to put in that work because you have to sacrifice something to be able to fight this stuff. And people aren't in a position where they are willing to sacrifice for an extended period, unfortunately.
Very true. And I think the most I hear from people all the time, the most excuse, shall I say, the most common excuse I get is, like you said, work, or, it's just, I don't have the time. But at the moment when they're hyped and feeling excited and their blood is pumping and it's time for action, you said it best. They're ready. Let's go. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And then 2 weeks later, like you say, calling like, no, not so much now. But what I try to tell people a lot of times, and that's for everything in life. We do that on all kind of things in different platforms. We want something, we can see that there, we see the prize, we can visualize ourselves, we manifest that. And the work that it takes from where we are now to get to where we want to be is the things that people don't want to do. It's too hard. It's too too much. I didn't think it was going to be that difficult to get to that point or to see change. But when we stay steady or we take turns, I like how you said if one person have the ability to do it with the funds, great. If the other person is a great organizer, great. If the other person can, do it with laws, great. I think the thing that I really picked up was that it takes a team. And when you are constructing that team, what does that ideal team looks like, if any?
I think it's so important, that point around it requiring a team, because nobody can fight inequality on their own. Just like you can't have one community, for instance, the people of, I don't know, Brooklyn, fighting inequality for the whole of the United States. It does not work like that, because you have to understand that the work that you do to achieve change and to achieve your goals of equality in whichever environment it is and whatever form equality takes, is that it requires you to understand that as a team, you have to create friction. There's no nice way to fight inequality. There's no gentle or passive way to be able to achieve change, because the kind of inequality that we've been exposed to has been and continues to be extremely violent. Even if it's not physically violent, it's emotionally and psychologically violent. It's financially violent. It's exclusionary in so many different ways. And so, the types of teams that need to be created in order for this fight to be successful and for it to be sustained is a team of people who not only believe in the same vision and are passionate about it, but people who also have discipline, self-discipline, because you are responsible for what you bring to the table. One of the things, when I think about being in doing my postgraduate studies and having to do group assignments with adults, we all work, we all have jobs. But you go to classes after part-time, after work hours, and then you've got to do syndicate group assignments, and then you'll always have the same dynamic no matter what group you're in, no matter who you're working with. If you have a group of 5, you'll have maybe 2 people who work exceptionally well and are diligent. You'll have one person who's kind of on and off. They're there sometimes, but sometimes they're not, but it's okay because at least they contribute something. And then you'll have one person who just always has an excuse. They're always busy. They had a crisis, or they weren't able to. They thought they would, but they can't. And it becomes a pattern. And these are the things that show up in every single circumstance where you are required to work with people, even in the work environment. And so the same would apply for this type of work, which is work that is largely unpaid. You don't get paid to be an activist. You don't get paid to be driving causes that are pushing back against inequality. It's hard work. It's painful work. You're risking your career. You're risking your livelihood, your income. You're risking being cut out of various spaces that are not interested in changing and evolving and transforming themselves. And so you got to go into it understanding what you're up against, because then you're not surprised when those barriers start coming up. You're not surprised when Matt, your friend from grade school, who you thought wasn't racist because you were his friend, suddenly starts going, why are you being weird? Why are you making this a race issue? Why are you pulling out the race card? But I think also there's a lot of naivety that still exists. There's a lot of, if we go and we speak logically and we explain ourselves calmly, then they will hear us and then they will, come to the table and negotiate. That's not how it works. And I was actually having a conversation with someone last week, I think it was. And my question to them is, We speak so much about humanity. Organizations speak so much about focusing on humanity and what's good for communities and their people. They're so people focused.
Mm-hmm.
And yet pretty much every organization that you go into, if you start having conversations around, diversity and wanting them or encouraging them to have a diversity program or, things along those lines, with every single one that has to be justified by numbers. Why must we be diverse? Show me how it's going to impact us financially. How are we going to benefit financially if we create a company that has a culture that is equal and fair? And so as long as people are still thinking in that manner, decision makers still thinking in that manner, the humanity of Black and brown people, the humanity of the LGBTQIA plus community is always going to be linked to whether or not it's financially beneficial, because it's not about our human rights.
Wow.
That is the battle that we're fighting.
Wow. I mean, wow. Because we are all fighting as, a race. Say we all Black, right? We all fighting as Black. And then we throw in gender, right? So now we are fighting as a Black woman. And it's crazy because we're like at that intersection, right? We can't fight and say, go to a company and say, listen, you are being racist because you don't have any Black women on your team. And they say, listen, we're being equal. We have women on our team. Of course, they're not Black women, but we have women. And you can't say, no, you're being racist because you don't have any Black women on your team. Like, listen, we have Black men on our team. We are doing exactly what we're supposed to do. So a lot of times the Black woman gets overlooked because what category do we actually fall in? Like you said, for them how does it benefit them? How does it check off that box? And a lot of times with the Affirmative Act that we have with, as long as they had a Black person, or as long as they had a female, it did not necessarily mean it was going to be a Black female. So when we are looking at fighting this fight, and there's so many branches, there's so many different outlets that has to be addressed. When we look at it as a female, and we're going to do gender equality, because I know you do a lot of work on that. What does that look like in the workplace?
Yeah, it's interesting because for many organizations here, so firstly, just South Africa as a country, if you look at our population, which is around 56 million people, the biggest demographic group is Black. However,
It's Black. I'm sorry, we lost you. Is Black what? What is the biggest demographic group?
The biggest demographic group is Black women.
Wow.
But if you look at it, if you go to organizations, you will not see very many Black women in senior positions. You will not see many Black women earning what their white and men counterparts are earning. But also, just like in the US, Black women are the most educated group here.
Yes.
But that's not reflected in what we earn. It's not reflected in the positions that we hold within organizations. It's not reflected in the power and the influence that Black women have in organizations, and also as far as policy development is concerned. We are just not there. We are not given the space. We are not given the opportunities. Black women are the face of poverty in this country. Black women are the face of lack of access to healthcare, good quality healthcare. Black women are the face of being underpaid. Black women are the face of single parenthood, and not having child support, access to child support from Black men. So, everybody's comfortable with the fact that Black women make up the majority of all of these negative aspects that impact on us financially and that impact on our mental and emotional well-being. But it doesn't bother anyone that we Black women are not represented on the prosperity scale.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm like, I was watching something the other day. I think it was like a Shark Tank. And there was a white woman there presenting her case. And she was literally arguing and being upset and cutting everybody off and being really nasty. But they summed it up as enthusiastic, right? We love your enthusiasm. And I was thinking, oh, is that what it's called? Because I know if we, as a Black woman, are trying to make our statements, trying to do things, then we're angry, we're bitter, we're upset, we're aggressive. And like you said, we're not represented as a face of success. Successful Black woman, I think they always put up Oprah, what she is, Auntie Oprah is, and we're so proud of her. But it's so many of us around that is trying to make differences every day in our world, in our corporate world, within our friends and everything of that nature. But we're so undervalued is what I feel. And it's so difficult, and you see it very clearly because this is what you do every day. You in the corporate world. How do you speak to your people on how to deal with it as a woman? I'm coming to you as a Black woman, feeling devalued in my corporation. What are some of the steps I can do to kind of adjust or reevaluate?
So I also work as a career coach, and it's interesting in that my as I built up my audience over the years, it has found its way to being very slanted towards women. And so Black women are a huge portion of my audience, like a good 60-70%. And doing that work, and also through my platform Connected, and also, just in conversations that I have with Black women around the workplace, is that there are a number of things that need to happen. Because there's, we're dealing with disillusionment for starters. Because, we grow up and our families, our parents tell us, just study hard, get great marks so that you can have a great job. Once you have a great job, just work hard, keep your head down, and you'll be able to get promoted and you'll succeed and you'll advance your career and all of these things. And then you get into the workplace and realize that that is not the way that it works. But nobody has told you how it works. Nobody has explained to you how you need to navigate it. Because firstly, you're going into a space that requires you to be a version of yourself that is not who you are. So you need to speak differently in a way that is not ghetto. You need to, dress a certain way. If you wear certain types of dresses, then you're sexualized because you happen to be curvaceous as a Black woman.
Yes.
And so your dress code is not appropriate for the workplace, but Amanda can wear the same dress and nobody will say anything. And then your hair gets policed. And then the way in which you speak gets policed. So you can attend a meeting and people can share their opinions and it's like, okay, great, thank you. Oh, great point. Actually, yes. A white woman can say, no, I don't think that's a good direction. And they'll say, oh, okay, that's a valid point. Why do you think so? But if a Black woman says, I don't think that's a good idea, you're not a team player. You're being very passive aggressive. You are not easily approachable. People struggle to connect with you. You need to try harder. And it gets even worse for women like myself who are introverts. I struggled a lot when I was still in corporate because we're not given space to be introverts. Black women are expected to all be very performative in the workplace. We must all be a version of Black womanhood that white people are comfortable with.
Yes, right.
So we must be talkative, we must be loud, we must be alert, we must be talking to everyone all the time, going beat, going this, going that, you know. And it was the most frustrating thing for me, because I was just like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I
That's
don't
not who I
care, you
am.
know. That's not who I am. And it's very difficult for us to show up in the workplace as our true selves, because that self is punished.
Yes.
You know, when people who are more senior to us have conversations about our performance, it always comes down to, yeah, I mean, you know, yes, she may have produced great results, but I don't like her attitude. She's not very friendly.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that this opportunity is suitable for her. No, I don't think she's ready for a promotion because she's not a team player. You know, because they want to force us into being what they want us to be, what they are comfortable with. And so we're dealing with that. And then you add on to that the fact that we're not paid what our peers are paid, if they are men or if they're white.
Right.
You know, and, you know, organizations have all of these silly policies that say that you can't reveal what you're earning. It's against company policy, but we're just doing this to protect you. When it's not, that's a biggest lie.
Right.
You know, because all it does is it forces us to remain stuck in this position and to continue to feel disempowered within the workplace, to continue to feel as though we cannot fight for what we deserve, because then, you know, you may to feel that you're being greedy. You know, a white woman can be ambitious, but you kind of are shooting higher than, you know, shooting above, punching above your weight. And so there's all of these narratives that exist within the workplace for Black women that are intended to diminish us, to make us feel smaller and less than. I can't even quantify the amount of Black women who are seeing therapists and psychologists because of the pressure that they face at work. Absolutely. Because not only are they dealing with racism, they're dealing with sexism, they're dealing with the violence that they face from white women in the workplace. And they're dealing with their own ambitions that they're trying to pursue. And there's just so much pressure. And so many people are, you know, the only source of income for their families. And particularly when you think about the single moms, you know, they're thinking, all I have to do is just at least try and keep this job. So it's no longer about seeking fulfillment. It's no longer about wanting to have, you may want or dream about having a full life, but so many people give up on that because the inequality and the circumstances that we face within the workplace make us feel like we're not deserving of having a life that we enjoy and jobs that we enjoy going to every single day.
Wow. Because it becomes now a matter of life or death, a matter of we eat or not eat. And I would like to add to that also our spouse, right? If you have a spouse, your Black man does not understand what you're going through as a Black woman, because they say, you know, my husband and I have had this conversation many times, that they feel they're the ones that is being attacked, right? They have to go out and slay the dragon and fight all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but we do too. No, you have it easier because they at least let you in. They don't feel you're a threat. And I'm like, oh, sweet baby, you have no idea. And it's eye-opening that they don't even understand our struggle. You know?
It's one of the things that we struggle with a lot. And I also have had, you know, comments from Black men along those lines as well. Just, you know, when engaging with my content, I have had Black men to say, but it's not about that. It's about being Black, and Black men also suffer. Black men also have a hard time. Black men are also victimized in the workplace. And, you know, for me, I always just am like, you know, this conversation right here is exactly the same as all lives matter. Literally, same WhatsApp group. Like, us highlighting the issues and challenges that are faced by Black women does not mean that Black men don't have issues that they face as well.
Thank you.
There are some things that are going to be common amongst the genders based on race. but you need to understand the other intersections that exist and how they further disadvantage, marginalized groups. So, you can say, put a group of men together, white men and black men. And if we say, all of these men have equal rights and equal privilege, the black men will quickly say, no, it's not the same.
Correct.
Because they are white and we are black, even though we're all men.
Mm-hmm.
But suddenly their brains can't understand when we say, yes, we're all black, but it's different if it's black men versus black women.
Black women.
Because we dealing with patriarchy, we dealing with the fact that women are expected to perform restrictive roles. Women are policed in terms of their language. Oh no, that's not a job for a woman. Oh no, a woman can't be CEO. It's going to destabilize the company. It's just too risky. It's only now that the US has, is it 2 women running Fortune 500 companies now?
Yes.
In 2021.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. That's phenomenal. It took a long time.
In South Africa, our equivalent, there are no black women at all. And we're a country that is predominantly black. We are an African country, but there are no black women running companies that are listed on our stock exchange.
Are you kidding?
And so that tells you everything that you need to know about the attitudes towards black women in this country, and not just in society, but also within the workplace.
Wow, that just gave me goosebumps, because we know it's slow in changing. We know that, like you said earlier, this is a fight that is a fight, and it's ongoing and it's a long term. But to see still in 2021, like, I was so excited. We have 2, right? We have 2 in 2021. Like, yay! and to say there is still none in South Africa is profound, and
it's crazy.
Beyond, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even when you look at politics, we have political parties, and the main political parties, none of them are led by women, none at all. So you've got men who are largely over 50 making decisions on our behalf constantly.
Just to me, it doesn't make any sense. I think the other day we were watching something in Amend, I think, with Will Smith as the narrator, and was talking about how women are using the 14th Amendment, where we're using it to include us, for the people. And it never said anything about women in the Constitution at all, because we were sought out as property, or, so we had no rights. And to still see, it's in 2021, they still see us as, oh, we're smart. Yeah, they can do it. They can go to school. They can do all these things, but we just can't trust them at the top. Is so scary on so many levels that it's hard to articulate.
It is, I've seen numerous comments around the fact that people always know that when they're in trouble, a black woman will save them.
Oh, absolutely.
A black woman will show up. A black woman will always be there in your time of need. That is essentially the box that we've been put in. And that's also another reason why I really am so tired of every time somebody is describing how amazing a black woman is, they almost always lead with, she is so strong.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm just like, we're not strong because we want to be strong. We're strong because we literally have no other choice. We have no other choice because ease is not afforded to us.
It even as a kid. Yeah, it's crazy. White women are raised from birth a different way as we as Black women, and it shows up in the boardroom. It shows up when we finally get an opportunity because we are taught to be strong. Listen, you got it. You got to stay strong, baby. You can't depend, you got to be strong. You got to be strong. Whereas it's okay for them not to be strong. As a matter of fact, they are not supposed to be strong. You are fragile. You are weak, and we shall protect and take care of you. We didn't get that so much. And it's a good thing in a way that we can continue to cope, but it was bad in a way that nobody is there to save us. When you are doing your studies and doing your speaking and doing, listen, she has a consultant company. She works with people internationally around the world. The problems are very similar. And you are putting in the work. You're doing it for the longevity. My whole platform is being fit, right? Focused, intentional, and transforming. And you are that person 100%. What made you focus on the workplace, the inequality, the gender? What made you focus on trying to make a difference?
My journey unofficially really started about 6 or 7 years ago when I was still in corporate. I headed up media relations and PR for one of our top 4 banks here. And I was reporting to this white woman who was the most horrendous human being I've ever come across in my life. She was so abusive. She was a bully. She was rude. She was aggressive. At some point, she cussed me out in a meeting. And, I just had the most horrendous experience for almost a year. And this is the experience that I wrote about in my book, and detailed quite extensively, because I wanted other Black people who are either going through it or have gone through it to be able to see that this is actually a very real thing. But so I guess the spark was looking deeply at my own experiences and trying to understand the language, understand the nuances, understand how whiteness operates in the workplace and how it's supported by the system. That is racism, that is oppression, and that is inequality within the workplace. But as I've continued to do this work, I've had to kind of open up a lot more and think, so if I'm here and, in the context of South Africa, I'm a relatively privileged Black woman, in many ways. And so I've had to really think about, if these are the struggles I'm facing, what are the struggles that people who don't even have access to things that I have access to are facing? And how do I bring that into my work? Because, they have to be seen. And I was in a position where I have the platform to be able to, amplify those voices, amplify those stories and those challenges. One of the biggest challenges when I think about women in the workplace, that we were chatting about earlier, everybody knows South Africa went through apartheid until 1994, when we had our first democratic elections and Nelson Mandela was elected as president. And there are so many expectations that we had as Black people about how the country would be different for us and how we'd have access to equal opportunities. But also it showed a lot about Black people's ability to say, okay, cool, bad phase closes today. From tomorrow, we're cool. No beef. Right? We're cool. We'll go work with the white people. We'll go to school with the white people. We're not going to be shooting anything up. We're straight. We're Rainbow Nation. We choose peace. And that's where we got it wrong. Because my goodness, they are still showing us flames. But one of the biggest things about apartheid was the fact that Black people were restricted from accessing quality education, but also restricted from earning well. So parents couldn't afford to pay for their kids to go to good quality mainstream universities, what in the US would be your Ivy Leagues, right? Even after apartheid, because they were largely in low paying jobs, a lot of blue collar work. If you were in white collar, it was very, very low level positions. And so access to that type of education has not been a possibility for so many people. And so what that has done is, even though Black women are the most educated group, that doesn't, for many of them, they didn't go to the top universities. Right. But the assumption is, well, if you didn't go to these universities and you're not as smart as everybody else, then we can't justify paying you XYZ because you don't have, qualifications from this type of university. We can't give you this position because you didn't get this type of it. And so that's how that inequality continues to be perpetuated, because we don't look at the historical background of this country. We don't look at the environments where the people are coming from. We don't look at the hurdles that have been in their way throughout the course of their lives, and try to correct that. And so when organizations speak to me about, oh, we want to be a diverse organization, we want to evolve our culture, and so we need you to come and help us put together a strategy, it's changing an organizational culture is about the little things. When looking at conscious and unconscious bias, when people are applying for positions, are you looking for Harvard on their CVs?
Right.
Before you decide they're worthy of an interview? Are you looking at, this person stays in this particular area? They might be a little problematic, so maybe let's not. Right. Whereas they literally had no choice but to grow up in that area. Correct. Because of zoning legislations that were oppressive towards Black people. Or you get somebody's CV and it's Lutricia. No, it sounds a bit
not
too
gonna
Black.
do it. Yeah, not gonna do
it. So already you have a culture that says that people cannot be who they are. They cannot come from where they're from, because people are being punished for the racist history of a country, but they're being punished on an individual level even now. And that for me is the worst thing. And that is the reality that organizations actually need to comprehend, that you're punishing people for a legacy of racism that they have suffered from birth.
Wow. There you have it right there. I mean, because that is so true. And it's so crazy that we have to say the name, for instance. You have to make sure you have a name that could pass. Crazy as all get out. That's like insane. Also, you said earlier about our outfits, how we have to show up even for an interview. A lot of times you have to make sure your hair is straight, or you have these things, and it's insane that we are still being punished. Wow. You you took your focus and you moved with intention, and your intention has been so profound in what you're doing that you are literally transforming not only your world, but the world of those that are exposed to you, the people that are reading your books. By the way, how can we get your book, by the way?
Currently the Kindle version is available internationally, on Amazon. The hard copy version is not yet available outside of South Africa, but I am going to be releasing the second edition of my book in the second half of this year, and that will be available for international shipping.
Perfect. And the book is "We Are the Ones We Need: The War on
The War.
Black professionals in corporate South Africa earned. It was just some of the things that earned you so many recognitions, and you were even nominated, right, for an award.
Yes,
I
I'm
mean,
nominated for a literary award.
wow. I mean, you guys must go out and get this book. We are so in awe of you. I am so touched, actually, that I have the honor of speaking with you and being able to say, yeah, she is really making a difference in this world. And thank you. I thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Listen, how else can we stay connected or support you in any way?
I have a website, sihlebolani.com, where people can access pretty much everything about me. There's also more detail about my consulting services, my coaching, and then obviously my podcast, The Workplace Revolution, which is available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on iHeart. And then, social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram, it's at Sihle Bolani. Twitter, it's Sihle Bolani _.
Awesome. You know, I am so deeply touched by this whole thing, because it's not just a subject that we read or we hear about. It's a life for me. You know, it's a life as a Black woman in corporate America, or, you know, moving and wanting to be at the table. It's a real problem for a lot of us. And I, again, applaud your bravery of putting a spotlight on it and letting us all have a platform to talk about it and share our connected, I guess, problems, or connected how we go through it and see we're not that different. You know,
absolutely.
No matter where we live. Is there anything else before we wrap it up that you want to share with us?
No, just I would encourage anybody who's interested in these types of conversations, this type of content, and this type of work to just, you know, check out my platforms. I'm always open to engaging and connecting with people who are interested in this type of content and want to contribute to the larger conversation.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time out. Until we speak again, you guys, stay fit.